Hello, beautiful, amazing, fantastic world, and you, wonderful, wonderful individual. Today, I would like to talk about approval and acceptance of self is emanating from your own inner soul and spirit, of course. Spirit is far more active, of course, but one would kind of have to look for it and also cultivate it over time. For believe it or not, if you truly have a certain alignment and interest in the warm, the compassionate, the true, the good, the beautiful, you will come to look at yourself more in alignment with that inner center and values. The more we stray away from it, the more quote unquote ashamed of ourselves we do become. Over time, it accumulates to such a point that we will not even be looking at ourselves, often distracting ourselves and maybe blaming others for certain things we haven't been looking at yet. To approve and come to an acceptance of oneself, we would have to first and foremost acknowledge where we are, where we came from, and where we're going as individual beings, but not in exclusion and isolation away from humanity, but in inclusion and also the love and joy for humanity. We are always looking and always striving and searching, seeking for these inner stabilities, these inner foundations, these inner core that allows us to stay in a certain humble and it's foundational more or less. The building blocks of are the ground we stand on in a sense, but it is far more of our attitude towards the world and others and individuals and cultures and such in the first place. So by holding a certain leeway for a benefit of the doubt and also a hope for humanity that we do have both the capability and also the possibility of growing as a soul spiritual being. Of course, excluding the soul and the spirit is kind of you remove the few things you can truly develop and deepen and expand. So by holding it as a reality, which it is, you are starting to be able to perceive them. You're starting to be able to become them in a sense, where you know where the soul forces comes from, where the spiritual forces comes from, and the playground that the soul and spirit meets with, because they do interact with each other and can be seen as blending into each other, which has become a challenge today because we are threefold, not dual, where our soul has certain spiritual capabilities. We are soul, body, spirit. Our spirit is the active, the eye, the pinpointer, the meticulous, but also the alive, the ever flowing, the ever exploring. The soul is what we feel about what we're exploring. And these two differences, and it's not about feeling either, it's truly is about the happenings within our soul that occurs with different sensations of either this feels beautiful or this feels ugly. For I don't stand from the good and bad type of situation. It's about morality, ethics, and also about if it is beautiful or if it is ugly, if it is healthy or if it is unhealthy. If you stand from these standpoints, you come to understand what truly is. For ripping on someone or something and everything over a long period of time, you're feeding into something that can become autonomous, where it becomes a habit to do so every day. Now, if we are approving of these types of behaviors on ourselves, we will keep on doing so. So one has to set certain ground rules and values one would have to follow at first until it becomes as autonomous for us within as it is the alphabet and anything we learn over time that becomes more or less automatic. It truly isn't automatic because you have worked and worked and worked so that our body and our deepest, most soul remembers these things and can do it on a dime. So the more alive you become, being flexible, being variable in every situation you find yourself in, but still holding the dignity, you are starting to build this inner character strength. For as Rudolf Steiner mentions, is 3 steps of character growth for every step of spiritual growth, or else our morality will be left behind, and that is when catastrophe can occur. There are always certain dangers, or one can consider, yeah, one would say spiritual dangers if one do not hold the true inner values clear and stable. For one has a tendency and maybe a temptation to suddenly use it against someone or something. And that is when we are going to feel some heavy consequences because we should know better. And when we do know better and still do it, that is when the consequences are most severe. So important, very important to hold oneself to the values one set for oneself and sticking to it as best as possible. Subconscious or half asleep mistakes happen because we are not fully and wholly awake yet. We do have our moments, but to be able to recognize them, acknowledge them, so that we can slowly but surely work upon them. For once we find something ugly within ourselves, a natural thing or a natural reaction to that is to wish to make it, well, a beautiful thing. Make it something that is not any more ugly. Doing something about it. For if we don't then say, that is just who I am, that is defeatism. That is just nihilism and cynicism, and it doesn't lead to anywhere but, well, more of the same. So it is about our attitude towards all of these different faculties of life, all of these different aspects. And the more we become interested in it, the more life just pops out to us. It's like it shines the brightest of lights and the most beautiful of beauties anywhere you look. But one would have to infuse this beauty with our own soul and spirit. For if we only look with our senses alone, without using emotions, without using creativity, without using anything we human being has as a divine gift, we will only see form and movement and materials. But we are infusing these materials with spiritual life. Everything is in movement, everything is in constant becoming. So that is what I will leave you with today, I think. We are. I digress. Thank you so much for listening to me. May Father, Holy Spirit, Christ, Michael, ancient masters of old, ancestors from every incarnation, protect, guide, bless, and love you on your beautiful journey. And may you be provided for with all that you need to survive, live, thrive, being creative, inspirational, and healing to the world so others can choose to follow when the time is ripe and the courage is at most high. May you be safe and sound. See you See you later. Thank you for listening to me. Love you. Goodbye.